We are happy to be here with you guys. And
Hi.
hi. Amy Artman and I are here to hopefully lead some discussion and hear from you, and then give some advice, some counsel, some tips on not just finding success in your online courses, but actually creating success in your online courses. So we don't want you to feel like you're wandering around the woods trying to figure out how to be successful, but that you can actually pick up some stuff and move forward and have creative experiences and good experiences in your online classes. So I'm going to ask Amy if she would like to introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. I am really glad to be here with you. I am on faculty with the Religious Studies Department along with Laura, and I get the chance to teach online classes quite a bit. I actually began at Missouri State University teaching online classes. I taught online here before I taught in the classroom. And I like online classes. I like them a lot. I often find that some students who might never speak in a seated classroom will be very involved and engaged in online conversations. Sometimes I feel like I get to know students even a little better through online classes than maybe I do in a seated class, but I like seated classes as well. I'm very glad to be here with you, and I hope that you'll ask questions and we'll have a chance to learn a lot together. So Laura.
Okay, and I'm Laura Hobbs, and I don't have this. Amy's holding a book that she recently had published. I don't have a picture of me holding a book I have published, so I thought I'd put in a picture of me holding a baby goat.
That's not fair.
Well, and actually, I was thinking I kind of am the old goat here. Amy was an undergrad in my intro to religion course back many years ago, right? And went on to get her PhD at University of Chicago, and now is back with us as a colleague and friend teaching in our department. So I've taught for a long time. I love teaching. I love teaching in the classroom. And when I was first asked to teach online, I was like, I'm not going to like this one bit. And actually I did, and I like it very much. And as Amy said, I like some of the interactions I get to have with students. I feel like students can interact a lot more through discussions and stuff. So I still like teaching in the classroom, but I don't know that I would say I like it any better than teaching online. I like doing both, which I guess is maybe why Amy and I are doing this workshop is to talk about this. So we thought we would start by first hearing from you. We could speculate what might be helpful to you as far as online classes, but if we could hear from you about what's difficult, we'd like to try to address those things as we go. We probably won't address them as you mentioned them right now, but I think as we go through the workshop, I hope that we can address all those things that you talk about. So what's the most difficult thing about taking an online class for you?
I think one of the hardest things for me during online class is just getting that one-on-one interaction with the teacher. And then even situations kind of like right now, sometimes it can be difficult jumping in to talk to the teacher, especially when they're lecturing. They can't tell when you're about to ask a question or say something.
No teacher to ask questions to. Balancing an online course load while not having a set time to be in class to listen to lectures! Exclamation point.
And you don't get as much interaction with the professor as you would in an in-person class. Mm-hmm. At least in any of mine, because nobody really talks in them because it's kind of awkward.
Mm-hmm. Having one giant due date for an exam period and then procrastinating until the last minute. Oh, procrastination. And that is my favorite drug. As not having lectures online here. Me, the most difficult thing is making those important connections with professors that could help understand the material and be used for future recommendations for graduate school and future careers. So lack of opportunity for networking there too.
Mhm.
Those are great.
Yes.
Teaching myself the material when the teacher doesn't post a lecture online or host a Zoom call. I've heard that one before. I teach GEP, and in GEP classes, a lot of frustration with feeling like you're having to teach yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, you know, and I mean, I said we aren't going to address these as we go, but that's one I don't think our tips really quite cover that Amy and I are going to share later. But I think one thing that and more students are doing this now with me, it seems, is if you're thinking about taking an online class to before you register for it, to email the teacher and ask what the format is, because it's really, as you know, and you guys probably know more than we do, how there's so many different ways that teachers teach online. So like for me, I don't use Zoom for online teaching. I don't think Amy does either. But some teachers do. Some teachers don't. They just, everything's printed. You just have to read everything. And so there's no lectures or there's no Zoom. So I do think I guess it's something I would add to our list of tips is if you're thinking about taking an online class, to email a professor and ask about the format of the class. I mean, I have probably a few students every pre-registration cycle who do that with me, or who ask if they could see a copy of the syllabus. And I know for me as a teacher, I'm glad to see students kind of taking control of making their choices like that. So any others that have come up on the chat, or anybody else want to share anything? So let's go to the other end of this. Amy and I are going to give some tips, but you've probably learned some things yourself as you've done online classes. And so I'd like for you to think about, and again, either on chat or if you want to speak up, that's awesome. In your experience with these courses up until now, what's the most valuable thing you have learned about how to do online courses? What's something you feel like you figured out?
Pretend like there is an actual set class time. I like that. Pretend. Good. That use of your imagination and is capital S, capital O. So important.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, everybody's how to organize a calendar and plan out assignments. Get ahead early so you don't get unmotivated. Yes, setting a time to work, learn how to use a planner.
Yeah, that's good. If you figured that out, you probably figured out the most difficult part of all of this. Any others before we move on?
Yeah, those are great.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those, and you'll see some of your wisdom hopefully in a few things that we figured out on our end as far as teaching. One thing that Amy and I talked about when we were working on this is really, as instructors, we kind of have to do the same things that you do and learn to do those things, because and maybe you've had instructors where you've sensed this or seen it, but we can get behind, or we can be disorganized, or we cannot hold up to our end of deadlines. So a lot of the things that you mentioned are the same things that if we're going to be successful as instructors, we have to do the same things. So we have some empathy for you in that
Definitely.
regard. Yeah. I think both teachers that have never taught online and students that have never taken online, I think sometimes a thought is, oh, that ought to be easier, because I can do it whenever I want, da, 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 da. And I think for teachers and students both, it ends up not working out like that. So we can empathize. So we're going to kind of talk through, and again, a lot of these will overlap, our top 5 tips for creating success in your online courses. And we've got the PowerPoint that I think is going to be made available to you later. And we'll also have a handout that covers these things too, that Amy will make available in the chat as we finish up. But as I was working on our tips, I thought, well, anyway, to remind ourselves that these are things that we can take charge of and do as instructors and as students. This is also what you could call the 5 habits of highly lucky online students. And over the years, I've told my students, like if they get ready to take a test or something, they'll say, "Wish me luck," and I'm like, the luckiest ones usually put the most effort in. So we kind of create luck for ourselves, and it sounds like a lot of you guys already figured that out with the time management. So so Amy and I are going to run through these, and if you have questions or want to say something, just jump in, start talking. We'll be happy to be interrupted. So Amy, you want to talk about this first one?
Sure. It's interesting because I think this is the one that most people who shared with their challenges with the classes, this idea of what do I do if I can't get, what do I do with in order to have that one-on-one interaction that I'm not having, that I feel like I'm not having because I'm not in a seated class. I think sometimes maybe using our creativity and imagination like somebody else did earlier, maybe we could create it, have an imagination that actually maybe you could have even more access to a professor through an online class. But basically what we talk about is that this tip is don't give up. Don't give up. Do ask for help. So we talked about don't give in to the temptation to just ghost. It's so easy to disappear in an online class. And don't just disappear. Don't expect to be tracked down. And I think this is going to be a theme that you're going to see us tease out the whole time together. Laura even changed the name of the session from, what was it, Finding Success originally? Finding Success in Online Courses. You're not going to find it. You're going to create it. And in this one, this is part of that creating success. Ask for help and ask for it early. Don't wait. If you're having trouble in the first week, or if most online classes will go up probably the week before class start, get in there, dig around, see what's going on. And if you don't understand something, if you're having technical trouble, ask for help. Don't wait. If you're having trouble with an assignment, if something doesn't make sense, don't get yourself to the point where you're going to be faced with the ethical dilemma of, here I am, no one's watching me. What keeps me from just cheating? Just keep yourself from even getting to that point. And if, life happens, if things happen and you're running behind, if you just can't get an assignment done, own up to that, be honest with the teacher, email them, call them, get in touch with them and say, I need your help. If you don't understand Blackboard or whatever course management system is being used, talk with Blackboard Help, talk with the help desk at Missouri State as soon as you realize it. Don't put all your oh, this is classic me. Don't put everything on your planner like, okay, here I need to work on this, and then wait until the absolute last minute to do it, even though it's on your planner. Don't make sure that don't wait till the due date to figure out the things that are going to give you trouble. All right. Clarify with your instructor if you're not understanding. And I think if be your own best advocate. Let this be an adventure in learning how to ask for help, because we all have to ask for help. We're all going to have to face up to not being able to get things done and having to go to a superior in a job in our family at some point. And just let this be a way for you to start learning how to develop skills at receiving help, how to communicate your needs, how to ask for help. And just don't give up and do ask for help. Laura.
Yeah, and you know, I think, I mean, I know that there are all kinds of instructors out there, but I think that most instructors here at Missouri State want to be helpful to you. Some may make more barriers to you getting to them to ask for that help, and that's probably not intentional. But yeah, I would encourage you, if you know, and I often tell my students, if life happens and something's going to be late, rather than just log on and take the test and just see what happens, you know, at least talk to your professor. Sometimes they will work with you, sometimes they won't, and they'll say, let this be a lesson for next time. But I would encourage you to not be afraid to ask for help. The help desk at the Blackboard help desk, they are very helpful. They're pretty responsive. They're pretty quick to respond. But just don't be afraid to ask. Did somebody have a comment about that popped up?
I was just kind of throwing one out there as well. And if you don't agree with what we're saying, I'll speak for Laura because I know that's fine with us. I mean,
Yeah.
Speak up and say, you know, I haven't found that to be true, or I've tried that, or yes, that is exactly something that works. Because this is what has worked for us. So let us know if it rings true to you or not.
And I know sometimes students, like if we don't recommend checking out of a class for 2 weeks or a month or whatever, but I know that sometimes students think all hope is lost, and sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's not. And you know, I'll have students contact me who, for whatever reasons, it was their first time taking an online class, and about a month in, they realized, oh, I haven't done anything, and things that all hope is not necessarily lost. And so that, again, that's another good way to contact your professor. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more later. And just don't assume that there's no hope. Don't assume there's no way out. Don't assume that you can't still salvage something that is at least reasonably successful. Don't make those assumptions until you talk to your professor. I know in my classes, I tend to put more of the points in the last half of the class and the first half of the class to give students a chance to kind of get rolling with stuff. So, you know, generally in most of my classes, at least, if you decide to jump on board in the first half, you probably still can salvage something good. If you wait till Thanksgiving, that's going to be harder. But we're generally willing to work. Was there a comment?
No.
Okay.
No.
The second tip that we have is to bundle up. And particularly what the idea of that is think about what bundle of things helps you be more motivated or enjoy what you're doing more. And so, you know, I mean, I know for me what works as far as doing grading or whatever I need to do with my online classes. And I know one thing that doesn't work is doing it in my office at Missouri State. It never works. I have too many interruptions, too many things going on. But I know if I can be at home, sitting at my table with my dog at my feet and a cup of coffee next to me and maybe something sweet to munch on, Sour Patch Kids when I'm really on a grading frenzy, that does the trick. But so you know what that is for you, that kind of creates the environment that you need to do what you want to do and need to do to be successful. And along with that, we encourage you to try to buddy up. One of the things that some of you talked about was the one-on-one interaction with your professors, but also a lot of times with classmates. And you know, I would encourage you, if you're in a discussion group or something and you figure out that there's somebody that you kind of connect with in the discussion group, or you've got another class together, or you're in the same major, that sometimes having another student in the class that you can bounce things off of is really helpful. So we also encourage you to find that study buddy or that survival buddy in an online class. Amy, you want to say more?
I'm really lousy. No, let me put it this way. I'm exceedingly good at making excuses for myself and rationalizing my own behavior. Oh, I deserve to sleep in, and you need to do that. You need to have self-care and those types of things. But having someone who keeps me accountable, that it's not just I can disappoint my professor, no problem. I can disappoint myself, no problem. But disappointing a friend or someone that is counting on me, it's similar to having somebody accountability in anything, like somebody you work out with, or just finding that person that you can check in with regularly. And isolation I hear a lot from students, especially now, that isolation in online classes can be a real detriment to success. So just feeling like you have somebody that you could text in the middle and go, wow, this is amazing. I didn't know any of this about Hinduism, or, oh my gosh, I have absolutely no idea what she's talking about. It's just, we're communal people. We need each other.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and post the link to this, to the handout we're using. We'll see. Maybe some of you all could click on it and let me know.
The other tip is the one that sounds like a lot of you guys have already figured out is keep up, don't procrastinate, make that schedule. It's kind of, I think an advantage to online classes and to teaching online classes and taking online classes is you have more control over your schedule. That's one reason I like it. I have a lot of things I'm involved in life. And so teaching online kind of gives me a little more freedom to do a lot of the other things that I enjoy doing with my life. But I think sometimes students and teachers both interpret that as, oh, I can do stuff whenever I get around to it. And that doesn't happen, as it sounds like you all have learned. But actually putting stuff on a schedule, I know one thing that Amy and I talked about, and another one of our colleagues that teaches online that we were kind of talking this over with her, is, I know for me, Monday morning there are certain things I do for my online classes on Monday morning. And that's in my schedule. And on Tuesday afternoon, there's certain things I do for my online classes. That's just my schedule. And sometimes things come up, and that's the good thing about online classes. But then I know I've got to move that to another time. It still has to be done. So, just blocking out a time. I know, like right now, a lot of us are teaching and taking blended courses. So like for me, I've got classes that meet on Tuesday, but not on Thursday this semester. I think Amy's the opposite. She's got classes that meet on Thursday, but not Tuesday. You're probably in my classrooms, but we're probably sharing classroom that way. But so I know, like, some of my students tell me that come to class on Tuesday, I'm just blocking off the same time on Thursday. And that's when I'm going to watch the lectures, stuff, homework beyond that, just like you typically would. But doing the best you can to have a schedule. And it sounds like that's what you guys have already figured out from what I can tell. Amy, you want to talk about this one?
Oh, I wanted to add one thing to the procrastination. I know that I've had students who are working and their schedules are week or day to day. And so they're always having to kind of, this idea of setting an exact time every week sometimes doesn't work for them. I'd say just, again, be aware of that. Be honest about that with your professor. You might need to let your professor know, I'm working a 40-hour job and going to school. How can we work together so that I can succeed? And some of your professors are going to say, that's your problem, not mine. They just are. But a lot of them are going to say, yeah, I get it. Let's see what we can do to help you. Some students will say, hey, I'm taking all online classes, so I'm going to work 40 hours a week. And it's like, that's probably not the best idea. Some people do need that money. And so I guess a lot of people need to be working a job. So I guess the thing I would add is if you're having challenges like that, again, plan for it as best you can. So, but again, life happens. Okay. All right. So are we on, we're on Show Up. This is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorites. You cannot believe how much it matters for you to log on, do, and be present in an online class. Now, again, there'll be some professors who they don't care up or not. There are going to be a lot who have discussion boards or any kind of interactive aspect that's going on. If you're present and available, that's kind of the equivalent to probably the advice you've been given by a million people about what's the number one thing you should do in college to succeed. And they look at you and say, go to class. So this is the equivalent of go to class. You're going to be present. We're going to hear your voice, because we hear your voice in your discussion posts. And if we do interactive items, some of your classes are on Zoom. So when we don't get a chance to hear your physical voice, even on Zoom, we know you through those that we're having. So your presence in those experiences is really important. It's also a place where, again, you get a chance to kind of push back against that idea and to have a chance to engage with other students and other people who are taking a class that you find interesting. Like, that was really interesting. I want to talk more about that. Again, being your own advocate, this is a chance for you to be a leader in your discussion group. If nobody's posting, you post. It will be noticed. And your professor's going to notice and will appreciate it. It will absolutely make the class more interesting.
And the fifth one, which kind of overlaps with that some, is to speak up. And this is particularly in relation to your professor. I know some of you talked about you don't have that same one-on-one interaction with students, with your professors. That, you have a class, and so afterwards, you come up and you visit, or you walk back to the office together. And I'm with you. I like that stuff a lot. In an online class, you might have to work at that a little bit more, but I encourage you to do that with your professors in whatever way you can. Some professors offer opportunities to visit with them. I know this semester in some of my classes, I'm giving extra credit if they show up, and we can chat on Zoom for a little bit with a few others in the class or whatever. In my upper division class this semester, where they've got projects, I'm inviting them to schedule Zoom meetings with me so we can figure out their project and kind of set the direction of their research. Whenever professors offer that kind of stuff, take them up on it. And if they say, if they give you a schedule of when to do it and the schedule doesn't work for you, email them and say, I'd love to meet with you, but I can't do any of the times you have. When could we schedule something? I love it when this, right now in COVID times, this is a little bit different, but in normal times when I'm on campus more, I love it when my online students stop by my office. They look at my office hours, come by. If you have professors that are on campus and they have office hours and they're taking students, do that. But I know that's a little bit weird right now with COVID, but hopefully by fall, we'll have some of that opening back up. It's, I like it when students email me. The last few weeks I've had students emailing saying, hey, I'm in your class, I'm liking this or whatever, and telling me a little bit about themselves. I think most of us like that. Again, I think at Missouri State, we have more professors who really just like teaching and being with students than what you might find on other large university campuses. I'm sure it's not 100%. I'm sure you could tell me, professors, that that's not the case. But I think for most of us, if you make yourself known to us, we want to know you and want to know who you are and want to know how to best assist you with things. The other part of the speak up thing is when something's not going right. Maybe either the way that an essay was graded and scored by your professor, maybe just some interaction with the professor that didn't seem like it was a good interaction from your perspective. And I would encourage you to one, to not be afraid, especially if it's like, with your grades and all that kind of stuff, to not be afraid to speak up with your professor. At the same time, as I often tell my students, especially in my seated classes where they can see me, if they've got a problem, I know on email, students can be a little more audacious sometimes in how they approach you. And I also know that we professors can be a lot more hard to get along with by email. And I don't think that's most of our intention. And also, you just don't know how things come across. I mean, I've had students who later said, "I can't believe how rude you were when you were," and I'm like, I didn't think I was rude. I thought I was being, kind of fair and stuff. So, so one of the things we encourage on the tip sheet is if you need to send that email to your professor about an issue, try to think about being respectful and also it might not hurt to have someone else who you respect, whether that's a professor you respect or an advisor or just an older kind of mentory student in your life, to say, hey, this is an email I'm sending my professor. Should I change anything in this? Because I think all of us don't really always realize how we're going to come across in an email. And I've had that happen where I came across in a way that I didn't intend with the student on more than one occasion. So don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to make your need known or your concern known. And sometimes if teachers offer you to call, sometimes that's easier when you can actually hear the voice and hear the tone of voice. But don't be afraid to speak up. Don't just decide, okay, I don't know. I think sometimes students think, okay, these teachers are teaching online because they don't want to deal with students. That is, at least for me, that is not the case. And that's not the case with Amy. And that's not the case with most of the online teachers I know. We like students. This is a way we can make some stuff available and more accessible to students is online. So speak up. Most of us want to be responsive to whatever your concerns are. Amy, you want to add something there?
I just ditto to all of that. And I know, Ashley and Justin both were talking about, would you have any specific recommendation for working with professors not on campus and who do not provide office hours and are slow to reply to email? Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, actually, Laura posed this to me earlier today, and we talked a little bit about this. The things that we talked about, if there's a TA or a GA involved, that's a possibility as a person that you could talk to, or you could jump in here. I'm trying to remember what we talked about, and I know we're running short on time. Sometimes don't give up, I guess, to go to our tip sheet.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is if you have an academic advisor, like in your major or maybe the exploratory major that you are, talk to your academic advisor about that if that's happening. Also, double check and make sure that the email that you are sending is accurate. You might even not. Okay. You might even not totally rely on that the professor put the right email on the syllabus. They may have made a typo. I mean, I've had students who have told me, I've tried to email you and you've not answered. And when I get emails, I answer them. So I'm not saying this always happens, but confirm that the email is accurate. The thing that if really you feel like you've tried to email the professor, you've tried to call the professor if they gave an office phone number, you've talked to an academic advisor, stuff's not happening, you can contact the department. I mean, if you weren't hearing from me or hearing from Amy, if you called the religious studies office and talked to our office administrator, Jane, she would probably let us know you're trying to get a hold of us or something. But you can contact the departmental office as well. Sometimes something's going on that you may not be aware of. So I know we're like at the end on time, and so we're not going to really get to do this activity specifically, but here's the deal. We're assuming if you came to this workshop that there probably is something you're struggling with in an online class. And what we would like you to do is what's one thing that you want to do or that maybe you've been nudged to do as a result of this time together today. And if you want to send that in the chat, that'd be awesome. That, okay, I'm going to try to double check on the email address of my professor and try one more time to contact them, or I'm going to make a schedule, or I'm going to decide on a day of the week to work on this one class, or whatever that is. What's one thing you're going to do? And what Amy and I are going to do, and hopefully you don't mind, is one of us will probably email you in the next week or two and just say, hey, how's it going? Were you able to do that thing that you were wanting to do? Is there anything that we can encourage you with? But one of us is probably going to follow up. We plan to follow up with you by email and just check in, see what's going, see if we can give you some more specific advice of what you're dealing with. But if you want to put a tip in the chat, or excuse me, a commitment in the chat of something that you would like to do, then we'll have those too, and we can check in on you. And talking about that accountability thing that Amy said. We want to help you learn to pick up the tools and create your own success. I know there's that old saying, which I know drives us all nuts: if life gives you lemon, make lemonade. But that's kind of that idea with some online classes. You may get kind of a lemon with it, but we can figure out how to make it work. I mean, sometimes every class is different that we teach. And sometimes I have a class that I just have to figure out how to create a different thing with that class because it's just not working. But we're going to touch base with you in the next week or two also, and see if we can come alongside you more personally with what you might be dealing with an online class. Well, we appreciate you coming to be a part of this on this cold winter day, but at least you're inside doing it. And again, we're going to touch base with you. One of us will.
Yeah, you can do this. You can do this. And I'm so glad you took the time today to be here. Thank you.